You're open to debating anybody.
I'm open, yeah.
Okay, so if we set up anything with anyone else that's maybe expert in the area of topic that you're okay with a panel like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, I think that he should have thought that out a little bit more. Just a scotch. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Cross Unit. I'm your host, Brother Maverick, and today, real quick, not even going to talk much. We had a debate between Wesley Huff, a Christian apologist and historian, and Billy Carson, a person who has pretty much built his entire persona around saying that Jesus Christ was never crucified.
Never got crucified. As a matter of fact, the Sinai Bible, Jesus was crucified. Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible. But then you go to the Sinai Bible. In the Sinai Bible and the Sinai Bible. According to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
Typical stuff that you see every day. Shouldn't be a surprise, right? But this beatdown was so bad that he's literally trying to launch lawsuits as a result, because that's how badly he's trying to save face. Let's go ahead and check it out, guys. And as usual, you will catch my thoughts a little in the middle and, of course, on the other side. Let's man up.
I want to, I guess, go first, Billy, as to how you came about like the findings where it seems that Jesus was not crucified. Sure. Or that's not accurate.
The statement is, according to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible. And that Bible predates the King James Version of the Bible. The text there actually is about 12 to 14,000 differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James Version of the Bible, which came much later. And then also one of the things that were interesting is that they discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary. According to some scholars, that's a little controversial, but they claim that this is an accurate record that Jesus may have even been married, which then, adds more, if that's true, it adds more to the hypothesis that maybe he wasn't crucified.
I really appreciate the fact that you seem to have investigated to a certain degree some of these facts. Do you mind if I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
When you say the Sinai Bible, what are you referring to specifically?
It's the biblical text that was written. It made it into you can actually look it up on Amazon. It's a Bible I have a version at home. It's called the Sinai Bible, right, from Mount Sinai. I'm assuming that's the mountain that they're referencing there. But they put together their own version of the biblical text prior to the King James Version being put out.
So when you refer to the Sinai Bible, would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus, like the codex that comes? Okay. That's why I was trying to get some clarification, because so you can actually go and see Codex Sinaiticus is at the British Library. So you can go and see it. It's on display. And the British Library has actually digitized the entire manuscript. So I work with manuscripts in my linguistic work. I'm an expert on early Christian scribal culture, and particularly in Greek and Coptic manuscripts. I have a facsimile, so I have a photocopy that was done by the British Library of Codex Sinaiticus that I work with in my office. So I have it here. And the only reason I asked for clarification is because I want to make sure that what I'm addressing is actually what you mean.
Gotcha.
And not addressing something else. Because the Codex Sinaiticus in particular is just it's a 4th century Greek manuscript. Mm-hmm. It comes from approximately between 325 and 350 AD. And its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from. So my curiosity is just simply in kind of exploring when you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there. I mean, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up the end of, say, Matthew 27, where it has Jesus being crucified. And that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or, the John 19, or any of the other ones. So I think my confusion is that it doesn't read any differently. So actually, are you able to pull up a website with the viewers?
Where was that piece
I found
discovered?
the text where I was referencing. Actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
Okay, yeah. Well, so that's good. So let's deal with that too, because I've actually worked with. There are 2 manuscripts of the Gospel of Barnabas. The Gospel of Barnabas is a really interesting document because it is a known forgery. And so that's why I think it's important to get to these sources. So I think what I'm getting at is, so I'm a historian. Yep. And I deal with sources. So when I'm looking at sources, I want to make sure that I have a methodology by which I approach any type of source. So if there is something that denies the crucifixion, I want to make sure that I'm analyzing it and that the methodology by which I analyze it actually reveals that the content can be accurately tied to the event. So if we're talking about, say, Codex Sinaiticus, that's in the 4th century. Now that is, I would agree with you, Billy, our oldest copy of the Bible in the sense of cover to cover, Genesis to Revelation copy of the Bible.
Right.
The problem is that we have individual copies of all 4 Gospels going back hundreds of years before Codex Sinaiticus. The only hesitation I have with what you said, Billy, is that we have single copies of the Gospels that can be dated to the 2nd century that all do have the crucifixion. And so if we're relying on something like the Gospel of Barnabas, which is not just like, it's not that there's debate about it, it's that it's a known forgery. So you've researched the text, but when we talked about the crucifixion, everything you cited was either, and I mean with all due respect, false in terms of the Sinai Bible, because Codex Sinaiticus is just a 4th century Greek manuscript of the Gospels that we have today, or they were verified forgeries in terms of the Gospel of Jesus' wife and the Gospel of Barnabas.
You may be right on that particular part of the topic, but like I said, that's less than 0.1% of the information that I hold.
Sure, but that was the original question. So yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, okay, well, so I'm going off of what we've already talked about. So you said you explored the text. I don't deny that. But the evidence, by going off of what you have put forward in terms of the actual documentary evidence, is not just less than convincing in my respect. And I mean this with respect, because I think you have done a lot of research. You've traveled to these places. I have too. Like, this is what I do as my career. But I'm not really getting indication, because in history, we go to the primary sources in their primary languages. And when Mark asked, okay, why do you deny the crucifixion? The sources you used were not primary. Okay,
we're still talking and they over and over again. There's so much more we can talk about here. We're wasting a lot of time. There's so much more. That's this amount.
Do you guys
so much more stuff to talk about?
So before I add my 2 cents, how does the Bible apply in situations like this? Well, 1 Corinthians 1:19 says, "For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate." And if there was ever a modern illustration of this verse, it's Billy Carson trying and failing to challenge the historical and theological truth of Jesus Christ's crucifixion. And as you can clearly see, it did not end well for him. So what was the problem? Carson strutted into that debate armed with cherry-picked theories and half-baked assertions about the Sinai Bible and some so-called book of Jesus' wife, whom he didn't even have, as we all well know. Carson even tried to claim that the differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James Version somehow nullified the crucifixion, as ridiculous as that sounds. Enter Wesley Huff, who is a Christian historian and apologist who didn't just refute Carson, he annihilated his arguments with grace, intellect, and an avalanche of facts. Huff systematically dismantled Carson's claims about the Sinai Bible. Carson threw around numbers like the 14,000 differences between manuscripts as though that were some kind of smoking gun. But Huff immediately exposed that for what it was: intellectual laziness. Those differences, they're nothing more than minor spelling variations or grammatical adjustments that have literally no impact on the doctrine of Jesus' crucifixion or his resurrection. Huff then reminded everyone watching that the Bible's message has remained consistent across centuries, which is a miraculous feat considering the thousands of manuscripts that we have. Then came Carson's claim about the so-called book of Jesus' wife, which makes me laugh every time I say it. Huff didn't just shut this down, he buried it. He pointed out that this dubious fragment was widely discredited by scholars, including those from Harvard, who admitted that the evidence points to it being a forgery. Carson, of course, was left scrambling, unable to counter Huff's detailed explanation as to why this fragment has no historical or theological legitimacy. But the knockout punch was Huff's focus on the overwhelming evidence for the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, as it always should be. He highlighted not just the biblical accounts, but also secular sources like Tacitus and Josephus, who confirmed the historical reality of Jesus' execution under Pontius Pilate. Huff's arguments were so airtight that Carson, instead of defending his position, started floundering with irrelevant points and baseless accusations. So now, instead of addressing his devastating defeat, Carson, of course, is trying to sue Wesley Huff and another YouTuber named Pocket Watcher.
Billy Carson is attempting to sue me. For those of you who don't know, I was invited to interact with Billy on a podcast that he agreed to come on. It was not his podcast, where he was notified beforehand who I was and what we'd be talking about. After that debate took place, Billy attempted to suppress the footage. That didn't really work. I've released clips from that conversation. While Billy does not want you to see those clips and has sent me a cease and desist letter. I was really hoping that this could be an opportunity for Billy to learn, to see the major errors that he's been repeating and turn this into a learning experience. I even offered to follow up with Billy in order to show him how and where he could find accurate and credible resources in order to make sure that what he was saying was verifiably correct going forward in the future, so he and his audience could learn and proceed knowledgeably. Billy did not agree. But unfortunately for Billy, agreeing to a debate, losing that debate, and feeling embarrassed about that loss does not constitute legitimate grounds to litigate. Billy, I will agree to all the terms and conditions of the cease and desist letter that you have sent me if you agree to run it back, sit down with me in person, and have another discussion. This is my formal response.
So let's call it what it is. A desperate attempt to save face, right? Proverbs 12:15 tells us the way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. Carson would do well to take some advice. When you're wrong, admit it, learn from it, and move on. Filing lawsuits against people who exposed your errors only underscores how badly you got destroyed. Wesley Huff's destruction of Carson's arguments wasn't just a victory for Christianity. It was a powerful reminder of why the truth of Scripture always stands firm. As Jesus said in John chapter 8, verse 32, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Carson learned the hard way that you can't fight the truth and expect to win. Let this serve as a lesson. Truth always prevails, and no amount of lawsuits or misinformation is ever going to change that. Hey guys, I pray to God that you liked the video, and if you did, please type amen in the comment section if you agree, and if you don't, go ahead and leave those comments also. Just keep it respectful. As always, please don't forget to like the video, hit the sub button, share the video, and smash that bell for event notifications, guys, so you never miss a new video. If you love what you see and you want to become a channel sponsor, you can hit that join button where the sponsorship trailer will explain the different tier options and the perks that you'll get as a result of joining each individual plan. Also, don't forget to check out our merch store, as I've recently added a ton of new merchandise to the store, and I would love to see nothing more than to see some of you guys wearing the Cross Unit logo out there in the wild. Lastly, the link to my Buy Me a Coffee is there as well. Of course, you're not required to do any of that. Just having you here with me is more than enough, and I am extremely grateful to God for your fellowship. As always, guys, be safe, be good, and be blessed. Remember that Jesus is King and the literal only way to heaven. So for those of you who haven't started a relationship with him yet, please consider it, because when he comes back for his people, it's going to happen just like this.